I've been through a lifetime of business ideas in such a short period of time. I had a successful events management company that I wasn't even old enough to go inside of because they sold alcohol and I was 17 years old. I started a successful web design agency with no experience, no co-founders, no investment. I'd never worked in an agency. It was all my own money from a 9-to-5 job, and I'm completely self-taught. I learned everything I know completely for free online. I blew up our social media marketing having no marketing experience at all, and I've been through a lifetime of mistakes in such a short period of time. And if I knew all this stuff back when I was 16, I'd have been exactly where I am now at least 5 years earlier. So in this video, I'm going to compress 9 years of business and life advice that I wish I knew at 17 into about an hour. So if you can't focus for an hour, there's no point even listening because you're not going to be able to do any of this stuff anyway. And I actually heard Alex Hormozi talk about this. I'm probably going to quote it wrong because I couldn't find the video, but he's basically talking about opportunity cost. Let's just use an example. If you now make 100 grand a year, your whole life you've made 10 grand a year, the opportunity cost over that time, however long that time period is, of not knowing the information you know now that you use to make 100 grand a year is 90 grand a year. You're losing or wasting 90 grand a year not knowing the information you know now to make 100 grand a year. And Alex basically says something along the lines of, all of that information that you know now that has got you to where you are and that you're using to make and fuel the progression that you're actually going through. If you knew that back then, if you could just go back and give yourself that information, what is the value of that information? I'd say it's probably priceless, right? Alright, so I've made a list of all of the top advice, all of the top pieces of information that I've learned over all this time. I've collated it all into one list. I'm going to go through it with you guys. I'm not reading off a script. I've literally just got some bullet point notes of the stuff I want to cover, and I'm going to go through it all with you. So the first thing on my list, and this applies to me and probably so many people out there are going to relate to this, you don't need grades nowadays. When people say that you need professional experience, I argue against that. You need professional experience if you want to go and work in a job. It took me a long time to realize that I didn't want to work in a job. I thought I wanted to have a good job. I thought I wanted to be a developer and get paid a lot of money. But I realized that that is literally not what I want. I mean, I've literally written here, you don't need a degree or grades nowadays. And that's so true. I don't have a degree. I don't have grades. But what I do have is more knowledge, more skills, and more experience than everybody else that does have a degree and grades. Because while those guys were at university, spending 3-4 years, spending money, I mean, some people get a grant, some people get a loan, but whatever, you're spending money, you're either in debt or someone has spent that money. I've been making money and getting the experience, and it's real world experience. It's actually the experience that the employers find valuable, because unfortunately the employers want a degree, but they also want real world experience, and actually those two things don't go together. And I was going around recruitment agencies for time with my little CV being like, yeah, look at me, I've got this and I've got that, but I ain't got no grades, degree or experience, and I want to work in this industry. And people loved me, they loved my knowledge, but to be honest, they kind of just laughed me out the building. And it took me a long time to realize that I'm going to have to start my own business. If I want this experience, the only way I'm going to get this experience is by starting my own business. And I've said this before, but if I work for a company and a client hires them to design the website, I'll design their website. They got a website designed by me. If they hire Island Web Design, my company, to design their website, they still got a website designed by me. The end result to them is no different. The only thing that's actually different is the experience that the company has and who makes the money and who gets paid for it and whose reputation is on the line. If you can put your own reputation on the line, we're going to cover loads more in this video, like how to actually get yourself out there, how to market yourself and get exposure and actually get paid the correct amount and what you deserve for your work. You don't need a degree or grades, and I'm living proof of that. And just on the topic of degrees there, by the way, you guys have obviously heard me talk about Max. We've just hired Max, and Max is actually at uni in Brighton, and what I just said doesn't apply to him, because Max may be at uni in Brighton, but Max is sat right here behind the camera now recording for us. He's getting experience with us, and he's actually doing it right. Like, while most people are just spending uni, getting educated and partying, Max is here working, getting experience in the fields he wants to work in, and he's coming here and doing videography, which is what his degree is in, and he's getting experience in the actual degree that he's studying. And then he's also a developer, and he's learning to become a developer and learning that skill set as well. So he ends up leaving with a skill set that benefits his degree and a skill set that's going to benefit him in all sorts of separate areas of life. But not only that, it ties into what he's studying with his degree. So I'm definitely not going mental and having to go at everybody that gets a degree, but there's definitely a right way and a wrong way to do it. All the information on how to do every single thing in the world is on YouTube for free. I learned basically everything I know on YouTube for free. And I mean, at the start, I mean, obviously you learn loads by doing, and you're going to learn plenty when you actually just get in there, get your foot in the door and start doing things. But at the start, YouTube and the internet is your best friend. Like, back in the day, people would literally have to go to the library, try and find a book, try and find somebody that knows the information, somebody they could learn from. Nowadays, you can learn from so many people, and actually the real skill here is being able to pick the right people to learn from. I always say, you need to be able to pick people that clearly have a real business that makes real money in the actual industry that you are learning from them about. If you're going to go and learn from some influencer whose business is just being the influencer, selling you the course and claiming that they know this stuff and teaching you on this stuff, that is where people fail, and that is why online courses and online education have such a bad name. I never paid for any courses, I took the Odin project for free. I learned everything I know for free on YouTube, and in my personal opinion, online courses and all of that kind of stuff are actually super, super valuable. They just get a bad name from bad people. So like I said, and I actually went and taught a class at the college recently, so the College of Further Education in Guernsey. I went and taught a few classes to people to try and kind of inspire people a little bit. Like I said, I had no grades, some of these kids had no grades, so I'm basically just trying to inspire them. And one of the first things I said to them is, Figma is free. You can just go online, find Figma, use it for free. YouTube is free. All the information I know, everything I'm sharing with you, I learn on YouTube for free. So you just want to get online, and honestly, the real skill here isn't being able to find the information. Everybody can find the information. The real skill is being able to dedicate yourself to it and actually collate all the information together and make it digestible so you can actually understand it and turn it into an actionable plan that's actually going to get you towards your goals. And here's what I actually said to the class when I was teaching them is, if me and you are both trying to learn to cook an egg, and I spend 2 weeks reading a book about how to cook an egg, and you spend 2 weeks actually practicing cooking an egg, at the end of that 2 weeks, you're gonna have breakfast and I'm gonna have a load of useless knowledge about eggs. So let's talk about investing. And this is actually something else that I spoke to that college class about because I think this is really valuable information. When I first got into business and money and all this kind of stuff, and I was first into learning stuff online, I was massively into investing. I was massively into crypto. You probably heard me speak about this before, but the original reason I wanted to become a developer was because I wanted to be a blockchain developer. And I thought that I was just going to be able to work a good job and invest my money and do dollar cost averaging. If anyone knows about investing, they'll know what dollar cost averaging is. But I basically thought, based on what everybody had said, that I could just work and invest my money and it would compound and eventually I'd be rich. And turns out, what I actually found out, which seems to be probably one of the best kept secrets around, is the actual way to get rich from investing is to create a business that cash flows and invest that money. You're not going to get rich from your 9-to-5 money. And also, if you're just investing all the time, you put your money to work, and then what do? You put your money to work and then do what? So in reality, you need to be running a business that makes cash flow, and then you can invest that money. You don't need loads of money to start a business. You heard me talk about this event business that I set up. So I was basically promoting events. I would hire a club, I would book a DJ or a rapper, and I would sell tickets. I was only 17 years old. I wasn't old enough to go inside my own events. And basically the way this worked is I had no money when I started this. But I worked out that they would give me the venue for free because I'd get more people in there than they normally get in, selling more tickets than they normally sell, more drinks, sorry. So they're actually just making far more money from drinks than they normally would. So you get the venue for free. To get the rapper over, you just pay for their booking fee, you pay for their flight and all that kind of stuff. But where did that money come from? Well, I just came from selling tickets. I literally just announced the event, told everyone what's going to happen. I had arrangements in place, but no payments had been made yet. And once I started to sell tickets and I actually had proof of concept that this idea was going to work, I used that money to pay for everything and put everything in place. And the events ended up being extremely profitable, even though I couldn't go inside. If you can learn sales and marketing, you can sell anything to anyone. I mean, honestly, if you really think about it, right, you are always being sold to. Every time you watch TV, every 10 minutes they interrupt you to sell you something. Every time you listen to the radio, they interrupt your song every 2 or 3 songs to try and sell you something. Every time you're scrolling through reels on Facebook, you're being interrupted every 5 reels, so someone can try and sell you something. If you really just listen carefully, everybody is always trying to sell you something, and you can start to pick up on the language people use, what's actually convincing you to buy things, and honestly, this will benefit you so much to just start being conscious of when you're being sold to. And most big entrepreneurs, believe it or not, if you go and actually look at the story of most big successful entrepreneurs, they all started out in sales. They all started out door to door selling something or on the phone selling something. That is honestly the most valuable skill. If you can do sales and marketing, you can sell anything to anyone. That's why most of these people start out in sales, because one of the most important skills in business is sales. Sales is one-to-one. Marketing is the same thing, but one-to-many. So you're either on the phone trying to close somebody, or you're in a meeting one-to-one trying to close somebody, or you're one-to-many on social media communicating your message, and it's the same thing. You're trying to persuade somebody to buy what you're selling. And this isn't actually relevant to what I just said, but I just reminded myself when I say that most big entrepreneurs started out in sales. What do you guys think? Share it in the comments. Feel free to pause the video and share it in the comments. What do you guys think is the most common degree amongst Fortune 500 CEOs? I mean, most people would say it's an MBA, Master's of Business Associate, or finance, or accounting, I don't know if those are specific degrees, but something to do with that. And you'd be completely wrong. The most common degree amongst Fortune 500 CEOs, and this applies to Elon Musk, loads of people, is engineering, believe it or not. They all have engineering degrees, and I personally believe that this is down to the problem-solving ability that comes with engineering. Obviously, I'm a developer, I'm a coder, I'm not quite an engineer, but I am a problem solver, and all of these problem-solving abilities are so beneficial to me in business. And when we talk about sales and marketing, just to go back to that a little bit, when I was growing up, I was really confrontational and argumentative, but in a good way. I knew how to get my point across, and I knew how to convince people of things and make people understand what I'm saying. And my dad used to always say that I should be a lawyer or a politician. And I swear to God, I used to literally say to him, no, I should be a marketer. I didn't even want to be a marketer then, but I just understood that marketers convince people of things, and I understood that my way of persuasion and the way I talk and the way that people understand me was perfect for marketing. Businesses have so much money. Now, just hear me out here. I watched a movie recently and it was called The Greatest Movie Ever Sold by Morgan Spurlock. Rest in peace, Morgan Spurlock, because he did die recently. It's about product placement in movies. So he's basically trying to convince companies to pay him loads of money just to be in his movie. And his whole like evidence in this is that in Iron Man, Tony Stark drinks Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper paid millions for that. And that was significant to me. But the most significant thing to me is there was a company in this, Buzz Deodorant, or some random deodorant company you've never heard of, and they were willing to pay him 50 grand just for him to use the deodorant in the movie. And that was when I was like, this is mental. Businesses have so much money. Like if you're a business with 10 employees and your employees are making like 50K a year, you have to be making like 750 or $1 million a year just to pay them. So like businesses have way more money than you would ever think, and you need to have an abundance mindset. This is my next tip as well. You need to have an abundance mindset. As soon as you start looking at everything in scarcity, oh, that's cheap, that's expensive, I need to find a bargain, rah, 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 and you start looking at everything from a point of scarcity, you will not attract abundance. You need to have an abundance mindset. A lot of people like to say, oh, there's not enough money in the world. There is so much money in the world. There are oil billionaires right now making bids on private jets just as a toy. And also, leading on to my next thing, which is like 3 in 1 here, there are plenty of people way stupider than you riding around on a private jet. So like I said, there's plenty of people stupider than you riding around on a private jet. And what I mean by this is, it's not about intelligence. It really isn't about intelligence. A lot of the time, the main reason that people aren't successful, if I was to say to you, what is the main reason you think people aren't successful? Is it because they're stupid, or is it because they're arrogant? A lot of people would say it's down to stupidity. Like a lot of people would say, oh, they're just not intelligent enough, rah, rah, rah. I'm telling you now, it's down to arrogance. It's always down to arrogance. How often do you hear this? Oh, if it was that easy, why wouldn't everyone do it? And to be honest, that's normally the reason everyone wouldn't do it, because somebody says that and that's it. Everyone thinks if it was that easy, why wouldn't everyone do it? And it's not that it's that easy, it's that the actual steps, once they're put in place, are doable. And people are like, oh, it can't be that easy, rah, rah, rah. And that is absolute arrogance. Like right now, there are plenty of people that are going to be like, what does he know? I'm here sharing 9 years of marketing advice, this stuff that's made me successful, and people are literally going to be like, what does he know? That's absolute arrogance. If you're willing to just listen, learn from people, and admit that you don't know it all, I swear to God, you're going to go a long way. Don't be scared to take risks. All of this is take a risk, see how it goes. Like honestly, and successful people literally stumble around trying loads of different things until eventually something lands. You need to be able to take risks. This applies in everything. Investing, business, even in your personal life. If you're not willing to take risks, you are not going to get anywhere. And that's why school is bad, because school teaches you not to make mistakes. They literally create students that are scared to make mistakes because they're told not to get it wrong. When in reality, you learn from making mistakes. If you don't make a mistake and learn what you did wrong so you don't do it next time, then how are you ever going to progress? And another problem with school, just while I'm on the topic, is they will say to you, you need to write this essay in 1,000 words, no less. I swear to you, in the real world, I'm going to say to you that you need to tell me this in as little words as possible, quickly as possible, before I lose interest, because I ain't got time. So when I quit my job, which by the way, nobody wanted me to do, I mean, my parents supported me, my parents have always supported me through everything, but nobody wanted me to quit my job, even people at the job were advising me that I didn't have enough money to quit, didn't have enough money to start a business and all that. But I took that risk, and I have never fucking looked back. This is so important, and this is like so significant for me, is learn to make your point clearly. Nothing pisses me off more than when I watch a movie and the whole premise of the movie is somebody could have been a little bit clearer, and if somebody was just a little bit clearer with their point, there wouldn't have been this misunderstanding that ruined the whole movie. And I always say, that can never happen to me. I'm abundantly clear, I don't mix words, and I make sure that people understand what I'm saying. Because if you can't get your point across and you leave everything you say up to interpretation, people are just going to interpret it in all these mad ways, and nobody's going to perceive you and get you in the way that you're actually trying to put yourself across, and it just leads to big misunderstandings. So what I'm saying here is I watch these movies and literally the whole point of it is someone's like and didn't get their words out, and somebody didn't understand the point they were trying to make, and now there's like a whole story and a whole plot and a whole problem. It's absolutely mental. This person could have just said that they spoke to this person, or actually they meant this, and the whole plot of the movie would be over. And now I understand that obviously the whole point is the entertainment value, and that's why there is a movie, but in real life you don't ever want this to happen to you. And actually, when I said this just now, Max actually just told me a really interesting story, is that basically there was like a missing woman or something, and the police officer didn't ask for a photo of the person he was looking for, and the person that had killed her, had stolen her identity, was running around as her, had met the police officer, and the police officer thought she was fine because he literally just didn't ask for a photo. If he'd just asked for a photo, the whole problem would have been solved. This is really simple and people never get it. If you can make people money, they will pay you money. Like seriously, that's all marketing is. Like we can provide value to a company, we can bring people leads, we can create something from scratch, put it on Facebook, and have people feel some type of way towards it, react with it, and engage with it. If you can make people money and bring people value, then they will pay you money. And this ties into having the abundance mindset. You need to understand that if you can bring people the value they want, they can bring you the value you want. Nobody can take away your skill set. If you have like a product or a patent or some idea, someone can steal that. No one can take away your skill set. Like I have skills in web development, design, marketing, videography, sales, copywriting, all of these things, and nobody can take that away from me. If there's a world war, or if there's an apocalypse, or if the world's over, whatever, and I survive, I still have these skills. Now obviously web design might not exist in a post-apocalyptic world, but the point I'm making is nobody can take your skill set. This is the most valuable thing you can ever do, is learn skills and knowledge. Like I'm always saying, if you can be the expert in your field, or you can care the most about one specific industry and be the guy in that field, nobody can take your skill set away from you. Nobody can take your knowledge away from you also, by the way. And when I say no one can take your knowledge away from you, honestly, the more information you can retain, the better. I have an amazing long-term memory. If I watch a video and I learn a load of facts, I can literally repeat those facts to you like they're my facts, and that has become so valuable to me. I think I said this earlier on, so I'm not going to touch on it too much, but if I worked for a company and you hired them to design your website, I'd design your website. If you hired my company to design your website, I'd design your website. No matter the end result, you get a website designed by me. So ultimately, this is just about confidence. You need to be confident that you don't need that other company's backing and their name or whatever to sell your work, because you're good enough, you know how to sell yourself, you're not worried about being salesy, and you just want to communicate your value because you know that you can benefit the customer. Once you take this from the point of view of you're not trying to sell them something, you're not trying to convince them, and you know that you have the best result for them, and you can actually provide them value, you will feel a whole lot better about being salesy and trying to convince people of things because you know you're doing it for the right reasons. And here's another thing that I said to this college class when I went in and taught them. 100% of happiness in human history, if you look back at human history, all the examples of happiness and contentment, it comes from building something. It comes from having a purpose. It comes from having something to wake up, a reason to wake up every day, something to chase. And that's what I never had in my life. I lacked this massively, and I just needed a purpose. The second I had a reason to wake up every morning, something to be excited about, something to get out of bed for, all of a sudden I was happy all the time. I was content. I don't feel like I'm chasing like a future result. I feel like I'm happy now, and I just absolutely love building it. And that is really such a lesson. You need to not be chasing the end result. You need to actually love the journey, value the journey, understand the value of the journey, because I'm telling you now, the journey when you're actually building something is the happiest you're ever going to be. Like, I'm not saying you're not going to be happy at the end, but the journey and actually building it is 100% the best part. Your thing, like your thing that you're meant to do, is not out there waiting for you. It's not, it doesn't exist. What happens is people go around and try a load of things until they find something where they can go, I can make this my thing. This is the thing. Like this I'm good at. I know I can enjoy it. I know I can make something of myself with this. This is my thing. And honestly, people spend their whole life lost walking around trying to find their thing because they think it's out there waiting for them. And they think that when they find it, it's going to be glaringly obvious that they found their thing. And they actually end up living their whole life never finding their thing because they were never open to making something else their thing, or just like finding something to make their thing rather than the thing finding them, basically. The next one is, I'm always talking about dopamine. Dopamine is so important, and this ties on from happiness and contentment, because you need to stop getting dopamine from bad tasks like social media and video games and porn and all these mad things that people get dopamine from. Social media, scrolling through vertical reels, is literally designed to be addictive like slot machines. It's supposed to be ching, dopamine hit, ching, dopamine hit. Like, it's literally designed to be like slot machines. And I'll actually tell you a little story here. Facebook came out with vertical videos long before TikTok, and everyone loved them, they were really popular. And then Facebook came out and said that they've basically found out that this stuff is really bad for your brain, it's super addictive, and they're not going to promote it anymore. And they're now going to promote things that promote comments, like people having a discussion and talking in the comments. So they did. And then a few months later, TikTok came out and decided that they didn't have the same morals Facebook did, and they were just going to do it anyway. So TikTok did the short form videos, and now Facebook and Instagram have to catch up. And the moral of that is there's always someone out there with worse morals than you that's just willing to do it. Get your dopamine from your work. Like, you're going to feel so content and so achieved actually sitting down and feeling good from your work. When you're sat at your work looking at the clock, wondering when it's all going to be over, that's because your dopamine's overstimulated. You woke up in the morning scrolling through your phone, you've already stimulated all your dopamine, and now you're never going to feel good doing your fucking boring work tasks, even though, to be honest, I don't see them as boring work tasks. But you will see them like that when you've overstimulated your dopamine. If you actually try your best, it is very, very difficult to fail. Like, honestly, it really is. Like, I'm going to give you guys another story here. This is about Richard Branson, which Richard Branson's a billionaire, owns Virgin Atlantic. And actually, the way that started, right, was Richard Branson was trying to get a plane to the Canary Islands or the Virgin Islands with his wife, and the plane got cancelled. Everyone there's raging, and everyone's waiting, you know, trying to get their kids to sleep, and they're talking about how they're going to hire a private jet and sell everyone tickets and just fly there. Everybody's talking about it. No one's doing it. Richard Branson went and hired a private jet, sold everyone tickets and made it to the Virgin Islands, and after that he decided he was going to start Virgin Atlantic, and now look at him. And what was the difference between Richard Branson and all of those people? Absolutely nothing. They all had the same idea. The only difference was Richard Branson was able to action it and turn it into actionable steps and create a plan to actually achieve this thing. So what I'm saying is, if you actually try your best, you won't fail. Like, I fully dedicated my life to this. I don't drink, I don't go out and party. This is my life. I wake up at 4 a.m. and I absolutely dedicate my life to this. And I had a plan. That's why I told you about Richard Branson, because the only difference between him and them was he had a plan. If you have an actual plan, you put steps in place, you make your dreams goals by changing them from dreams and actually making a plan and having actionable steps, at which point they become goals, you're far more likely to actually achieve these things, right? And as I said, if you try your best, you can't fail. But people don't really try. Like, people like to think they're trying, and normally what happens is something happens, so they quit. This happens, so they quit. This happened, so I quit. It always ends with so I quit or so I gave up. And if you honestly just power through when everything feels bad and everything feels like it's failing and just keep on going and keep doing it, you are very unlikely to fail. I'm just going to touch on this one quickly because you heard it a million times, and that is, you don't need money to make money. I told you, I started the event management company with no money, just selling tickets. I started out in web design, I had like 600 quid. That was enough to run my ads for probably like a month or something, and after that I needed to be making money. So I started out in web design with no money. I got a proof of concept because I just ran ads and saw that people actually wanted it. So you don't need money to make money. Like, I've heard this example before, I can't remember who I heard this from, but it's like, if you want to start an e-commerce store and you want to sell, I don't know, say you want to sell t-shirts. Should you go and buy a load of t-shirts, have a load of stock, get all the logos printed, spend loads of money getting all of the official things in place, only to find out no one's going to buy your t-shirts? Or should you make a website, put all your t-shirts on the website, see if people want to buy them, and if they buy them, you just tell them there's going to be a slight delay because these things are very popular, but your t-shirts are on their way, and then you pay for them, order them, and ship them out. I know which one I'd be doing. I actually said this to a client recently, yeah. A saturated market isn't a bad thing. Everyone's looking for a market with no life. Like, everyone's like, oh, I need to find an empty market, a gap in the market, rah, rah, rah. And yes, I've spoken about a gap in the market before, but that's not what I'm talking about. You don't want to find an empty market. You want to find an oversaturated market that has life. Like, it proves that there is life in that market. There are so many companies around, right? In Guernsey, where we're from here, there are 70,000 people that live here, and there are like 60,000 businesses on the island. Like, there are so many businesses, and obviously that's not proportionate to the population, but I'm talking about the amount of companies registered here and all that kind of stuff. Like, honestly, if you're looking at your market and you see a load of competitors doing extremely well, that just means that there's actually customers, like there's actually life in the market. And I'm telling you now, I would much rather operate in a market that has life than a market that has no life, hoping that I can come in and stimulate the life in it. Because to be honest, there's probably no life in it for a reason, or someone would have done this ages ago. The closer you can align yourself to objective reality, the better. Everyone has opinions, everyone feels a certain way about something, and everybody's opinion is different. Like, you're always going to upset someone. But the closer you can align yourself to actual objective reality that isn't clouded by opinions and all that kind of stuff, the more likely you are going to please everybody. Like, the more people that are going to like you, the more people that you're going to be suitable for, the more people that you're going to click with, right? Because you just align yourself with objective reality. Like, I'm not saying you're not allowed to have opinions, but like, there's a time and a place for opinions. So yeah, align yourself with objective reality as close as possible. He who does not read has no advantage over he who can. And when I heard this, it blew my mind. It honestly made me feel a bit stupid because I definitely put reading on the back burner. And I'm not necessarily saying reading, I'm talking about learning. I mean, even when you're consuming information online, you are reading, or you're taking in information. Like, obviously the quote originates from reading. The quote probably came from before there was the internet. I'm talking about learning, consuming information. I started reading so much more when I heard this because I did not want to be he who does not read and have no advantage over he who can. So I started reading, I picked up so much information. And actually a lot of my initial information that I learned about investing and business and all this kind of stuff came from reading books. Now, there's definitely a time and a place for books because a lot of the time you can read the first 20 pages and after that they're just going to repeat themselves throughout the whole book, just kind of cementing their ideas and giving evidence. So it's really up to you how you want to consume these books, even if it's like audibles and all that kind of stuff, or if you just want to go and watch YouTube videos about actual educational topics. But yeah, he who does not read has no advantage over he who can. Don't be he who can, and don't be he who does not either, obviously. Invest in your own personal skills. When I started out in web design, I remember being like, I don't know what to invest my money in. Like, once we first started making some money and all that, I don't know what to invest my money in. Like, what do you invest your money in? How do people invest in companies? And I really couldn't find the information. I wasn't sure exactly what to invest my money in. And I realized you need to invest your money in yourself, in your own personal skills. When I was talking about opportunity cost before, the more you can increase your skill set and increase your skill set, the more money you're going to make, and you're actually like knocking down that opportunity cost. If you can invest in yourself, and this doesn't necessarily mean money, like even if you can just invest time in yourself and your own growth and skills, this is going to be so important. When I lay out my goals for the year, I break it up, I call it the 5 pillars of life, and I break it up into 5 sections, and that's personal, education, skill set, family, business. I always break it up into these 5 areas because like all of these things are important, and I want to make sure that like I'm covering my education, I'm making sure that I'm still, because like I said, I'm learning by doing, and you can be learning by doing, and it's so valuable when you learn so quickly and you learn really, really important things that people are actually paying you money to do. But at the same time, you still need to focus on this kind of education as well. Invest in yourself, do online courses, and leading me on to my next thing, which ties into this, is you are the company you keep. And I was at a point in my life where I wanted to cut ties with all of the bad company I was keeping, but I didn't have any good company to keep. So what I did was I just surrounded myself with like YouTubers, and I don't mean influencers, I mean people that were actually teaching me stuff online. And they became the company I kept, and I was learning from them. I wanted to be like them, and that was so beneficial to me. So if you think that, oh, well, that's all well and good, but I don't have any good company to keep, just do what I did, get online and keep your good company from good, influential people online. Everyone should have a role model. I have a load of role models, and a good piece of advice with role models is somebody may be your role model, but it doesn't mean you need to admire every single trait about them. Like, there might be some things you don't like, and you definitely shouldn't align yourself with that just because they're your role model. And this is actually supposed to follow on from the Richard Branson one, but nobody knows how to implement their plan. I've already told you the Richard Branson story, but honestly, if you can just like stop dreaming and stop thinking about this stuff in your head, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and actually put a plan on paper. I was talking about setting goals a minute ago. Like, if you can set goals, I set goals every year, and I try and look at them as often as possible. People say check your goals every day. I'm not checking my goals every day, but when I do check my goals after like a month or two, I can't believe how many I'm ticking off. I'm like, done that, done that, done that. Like, honestly, it's mental. And that's obviously helped me so much with implementing my plan, because you need steps. Like, what's an instruction manual? It's steps. The second that you turn your dream into a plan, it actually becomes real and like likely to actually happen. It becomes actionable. I mean, Jay just made a really good point about recipes, is when you make a cake, you're literally following instructions. And if you weren't following these instructions and you were just like, all right, I think there's an egg, I think there's flour, you're far less likely to make it to the end. Do what you say you're gonna do. Like, this is so important for me. This is one of the #1 character traits that I define myself with, is I do what I say I'm gonna do. If I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. And honestly, like, the fact that I know this is true is like, I used to not be that kind of person. I used to like really struggle to actually follow through and do what I said I was gonna do. And as soon as I learned how to put steps in place, action my plans, I was honestly able to start doing the things I said I was gonna do. And when you originally say you're gonna do it, it doesn't mean you don't have the intention to do it. You probably have every intention to do it when you say you're gonna do it. But because you're not able to put the actual steps in place, you're never actually able to achieve it. And the way I know how far I've come is, I used to always want to make my parents proud. Like, they loved me and all that kind of stuff, but they probably weren't that proud of me. My dad literally said the other day that I know if my son says he's gonna do something, he'll do it. And obviously the reason I tell you that is because it's great to know that outside perspective thinks the same thing you do. Like, if I think this thing about myself and I think I'm the kind of person that does the things I say I'm going to do, but other people, especially people close to me like my dad, are like, nah, he's full of shit, then you're probably not the kind of person you think you are. And the next one is, you can hire people for cheap as hell online. And I don't mean that literally, I do mean that literally, but what I'm saying is, you don't always have to, like, if you want to hire someone, you don't have to pay someone 50 grand a year or 30 grand a year or even a full-time salary. Like, when Max first came to us, he wanted to be an intern. He ended up with a paid position, but he wanted to be an intern because he knew that that's how he'd be able to build up his skill set. We actually had a guy from Bangladesh work for us, which was a super good developer. I found him on Fiverr or Instagram or something like that. And to be honest, the only reason that didn't work out was the time zone difference and the language barrier and stuff. But he was an amazing guy, amazing developer. I found him online, and honestly, I was surprised because I thought hiring someone was going to be a lot more expensive. And I will add here that Fiverr and all that kind of stuff is kind of a race to the bottom. Like, there's always someone that's willing to do it cheaper, and you want to make sure you're not going for someone suspiciously cheap, but there is always skilled people online. Like, there's so many skilled people online that have found all this information for free. Like I said earlier, they've learned, they've actually probably implemented a lot of the things that I'm telling you guys you should implement, and you really can hire anybody for anything online. So if you don't know how to do something and you don't have the time to learn it, or it's not efficient to commit your time to learn it, you're always going to be able to find somebody that will do it. And even if you have like a young cousin who wants some work experience, or a little brother or something, all of this stuff is beneficial, and you should consider all of it when you're thinking about if you're going to hire somebody, or if you need some help, or if there's a skill set you don't have that someone else could fill. The blueprint for success, the actual action plan of how to be successful, is already out there for every single industry. When I was talking about role models, you just need to find people that have done what you want to do and basically copy them. Like, not copy them, but obviously they know what to do correctly, so you should be doing what they're doing. Like, seriously. You need good mentors, you need role models, and I don't mean go pay for a mentor. I mean, like, I actually thought that's what I had to do at the start, was go and find like a proper official mentor. And I realized, same as what I told you guys about the YouTubers, I have loads of mentors. I have like loads of people online that I learn from, I trust, and honestly, like, for example, Ben Heath. I always shout out Ben Heath. Taught me loads about Facebook ads, and he has an actual business in Facebook ads that makes loads of money, and the information that he gave me and taught me has actually allowed me to progress and be successful. So therefore I know that I can learn good shit from Ben Heath. So you need to learn from people that are only a little bit ahead of you. For example, if there is somebody that wants to start an agency, they would be better learning from me than someone that's been in the agency business 10 years, because I have literally, I'm only like a year ahead of them, a year and a half ahead of them. I'm learning this stuff right now, and I still remember exactly what it's like to be them. Hard work pays off. Everybody's seen someone struggling in their life and probably thought, hard work doesn't pay off. That person worked so hard, or I worked so hard, and this hasn't paid off. But I promise you, it accumulates. People just quit too quickly. Like, 1% progress each day, or even 1% progress each month. In 100 months or 100 days, that's 100% progress. You're double as good as you were when you started. So like I said, like, everybody's seen someone struggle and thought, oh, well, they work hard and it obviously doesn't pay off. But like, that's not really what I'm saying. Like, if you actually are going to put hard work into learning something and accumulating a skill set and doing all the things that I've spoken about in this and being actually dedicated, no matter what amount of progression you're making each day, as long as you're moving forward each day, you're making progression. And even if you make progression for 10 days in a row, you're moving forward, moving forward, moving forward, and then you have a couple bad days and take a couple steps back, over the week or the month or whatever, you've still moved forward. You just need to not get down and quit and think that you're not progressing. Because I swear to God, sometimes sometimes I feel like I'm not progressing. But when I look back at everything I've achieved and everything I could do now and everything I couldn't do back then, I'm actually mental to even say I haven't progressed. Social media is so powerful. Like honestly, when I started this business, I used to work on a building site. And when I left, which I told you about before, was a big decision for me, I texted my boss and I was like, yo, how did you get business when you first started? And he was like, advertise, mate. I was like, all right, I'm going to advertise. Literally got on Facebook, started advertising, and I didn't realize the power of social media. People relate to me, they trust me, they get their value from me. Like when I get in a sales call with people, I'm not even pitching them. They already know me, they already trust me, they've already gone down a rabbit hole and been educated by me. They know I can solve the problem I say I can. We're kind of just meeting each other, confirming that everything I said is true. And once they see my work, they know I can back it up. Honestly, personal brands are so powerful. Elon Musk does not spend a penny on marketing for Tesla because of his Twitter account. He literally just gets on Twitter and talks shit and makes billion-dollar companies. I mean, not paying for marketing is literally marketing in itself, hence why I'm literally sat here telling you it right now. And just an example of that, right? When Elon Musk bought Twitter, the most popular tweet ever is, I might buy Coca-Cola now and put cocaine back in it. Nobody gives the slightest fuck about you or what you're doing or anything unless you make them care about you. Like I promise, when you're like, I'm gonna get in front of the camera, but everyone's gonna take the piss out of me. Some people have taken the piss out of me, but most people compliment me. Most people are inspired by me. So to be completely honest, you just need to get over the fact you're not the center of the world. Nobody's looking at you unless you make them look at you. And by the time you make them look at you, you've made them look at you for a good reason. They're looking at you for the right reasons. Like I've honestly never felt like, oh, I don't wanna do that because what this person will think of me, that person will think of me. I'd be far more concerned what they think of me if I was a 40-year-old bum that did nothing with my life. I've said this before and it heavily applies to me, but people relate to people. No one gives a fuck about Nike. People give a fuck about Michael Jordan. No one gives a fuck about Adidas. People give a fuck about Kanye. Like seriously, that's why they use these people. There's an actual really interesting movie about how Nike signed Michael Jordan and how Nike were basically nobody. They were like, you know, people like Puma and stuff were like Nike. Michael Jordan ain't going to sign to Nike, he's going to Adidas, like Run DMC just did a song with them and all that, right? Nike ended up getting Michael Jordan, and now look, and Michael Jordan convinced them to give him 1% of it all. They made billions in the first year selling these shoes. Like this was the first time that people were like wearing a shoe because of a person, and also the NBA were only allowed white and black shoes, and Michael Jordan paid the fine, well Nike did, paid the fine every game so Michael Jordan could wear red on his shoes, and that was marketing in itself. They were like, oh, Michael Jordan's paying the fine every game, Michael Jordan's basketball's bad boy wearing those red shoes, and they're the Bulls colors. And he's with a company that no one's heard of. They make, well, obviously people have heard of. Nike was big, but their basketball division wasn't big. So he's with a company that didn't have a basketball division, and now Nike are the basketball division. Everybody wears Jordans. It's Air Jordan. Same with Adidas and Kanye. When Adidas fired Kanye, Kanye made a Super Bowl ad, which by the way cost millions, right? And spent his whole budget to pay for the ad. So his whole ad was just him with a phone in the back of a car going, yo, it's Yeezy. Just go to Yeezy.com, buy the shoes. And some shit about Adidas. And I swear to God, like everyone just went, bought his shoes, everyone boycotted Adidas. Like it's mental, the power of the person over the power of the company. You're gonna think it's mental that I say this, but most businesses don't understand the power of marketing. Most businesses don't even think they need to market. They're like, yeah, I don't really want to do marketing. I don't want loads of business. Like I just, you know, I've got word of mouth and rah, rah, rah. But like if you don't understand how to market, like maybe you don't do paid marketing, maybe you do organic social media, or maybe you just kind of like PR, where you kind of like just put feelers out for the way people are supposed to perceive you and all that kind of stuff. Like all of that is marketing. Like even the way you carry yourself and the things that people say about you, it's all marketing. Like marketing is so important to a company. Marketing is how the money comes in, and the only reason that you know about any company is because of marketing. Like literally the only reason you know about anything is because of marketing. A really good example here of how powerful marketing is, Christmas used to be green, so did Santa Claus. Santa Claus used to walk around wearing green until Coca-Cola got hold of the marketing campaign for Christmas, put Santa in red, and now you're all probably like, what? Santa was green? Because no one even knows that because of the power of marketing. Someone actually said this to me pretty recently, and we were already doing it, but I was like, oh my God, like other companies aren't doing this. And that is that no companies do any strategy. I'm serious. I work with so many companies on their marketing, on how they portray themselves online, their website. Nobody does any strategy. We may do strategy for them if they hire us to do strategy as part of the project, but like nobody's doing any strategy. We have a team meeting every week, and that's the very minimum of it, is we have a team meeting every week, and we go through everything that's going on, all of the strategies, everything that we're going to try and do. And now we're here filming content, and this is part of our strategy. We're here now implementing the strategy that we've been planning out. We have a brand strategy document. I have a roadmap. Like, so in ClickUp I have a list, strategic roadmap of everything that we need to achieve for our launch and the timeline. All our strategy, and this goes back into plans. Like we have an actual plan of every step we're going to take for our new launch and for our growth and to scale, and now we're going to implement it. I've actually covered this one a little bit already, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but this is be prepared to learn by failing. Now, obviously, I've spoken about this already. I've spoken about how school is flawed for the system that they set up that makes people be scared of failing. But yeah, remember, every time you fail, every time you make a mistake, because you will fail and you will make mistakes, that's how you grow. You need to look at what you did wrong and make sure you don't do it again. Success breeds complacency. Like if you carry on being successful, your ego builds up, eventually you think you can't fail. Like for example, they say if you constantly tell kids that they're talented, let's say they are talented, you're a super smart, talented kid, and you constantly tell them they're talented, they are far less likely to succeed because they believe they don't need to try because they're talented. So like I said, success breeds complacency. Like, you need to be able to take on the failure, learn from your mistakes, understand that you're not perfect, and work out what you did and why you failed and how that affected you, so next time you don't fail. There is nothing that pisses me off more than when people say I'm lucky. I may well be lucky, but the problem is I was there showing up every single day, which means, right, if I'm showing up every single day and you didn't, and on Wednesday when I showed up and you didn't, I got lucky, you would have not even been able to get lucky even if the luck was going to strike you because you didn't show up. So if you show up every single day, you are absolutely increasing and multiplying your chances of getting lucky. And just following on from that, most people aren't trying. Like, honestly, 50% of the population is stupider than average just by default, right? Most people aren't trying. If you can literally just try it a little bit, like I'm saying to try your best, but even if you try a little bit, you're trying more than everyone else. Honestly, there's just something nice about knowing that when I wake up every morning to chase my dreams, everyone else is in bed. The next one kind of ties into the role model thing, but be influenced by people. Like, don't let anyone tell you that you shouldn't be influenced by people, you shouldn't have role models, you shouldn't follow people. I'm not going to dive too much into this because the same points apply to when I was talking about role models, but you need to be influenced by people. The term influencer gets a bad name because influencers tend to be, like I said earlier, like when I say you want to learn from somebody that has an actual business and not an influencer, they tend to give influence a bad name, but in general, all of social media marketing is influence. You are not supposed to have a social life or any friends. And honestly, what I'm saying here is, I don't have a social life, I don't have any friends. I don't look at myself as not having any friends because I do have loads of friends, but I don't have a social life to go with it. So in other words, like, there are so many adults out there that think that they're supposed to have the same social life that they have when they're kids, and they're still like chasing that and going around, getting involved in like gossiping and just general social life stuff, and wondering why they can't maintain the same sort of social life they had when they were kids, and then they think there's something wrong with them or that they're not very popular or whatever. When in reality, when you're an adult and you've got loads of stuff going on, you're chasing your dream and all that kind of stuff, there is absolutely no reason you should have a social life or be trying to please these friends and all that kind of stuff. We are all adults, we're all doing our own thing, and unfortunately at this age you're not supposed to have a group of friends and a social life in the same way you did when you were younger. Getting drunk and partying and doing drugs and all that kind of stuff can very easily be mistaken for living your life to the fullest, but actually if you look very closely, it is the one thing that's preventing you from living your life to the fullest. Everyone's like, yeah, in your 20s you want to party and enjoy life, rah, rah, rah. I swear to God, I have enjoyed my 20s. This has been a party for me without partying, without alcohol, and that ultimately leads to me having the same quality of life for the rest of my life, while everyone else when they're in their 30s and 40s is going to be trying to do what I did in my 20s and trying to catch up with themselves, and trying to catch up with me actually. You aren't supposed to be happy all the time. People have got this so wrong, like everybody's out trying to chase happiness, and then it leads them to wondering why they're not happy. You're not supposed to be happy all the time. When I'm talking before about all the examples of happiness and contentment in human history, these people weren't 100% happy all the time. Content is a far better thing to be chasing. Pride is a far better thing to be chasing than happy, because you're not going to be happy all the time. The world really is very binary, because without sad, you wouldn't even understand why good is good. Like, you need sad for happy, you need good for bad. That's literally how the world works, and that is what people mean when they say things are binary. If I was constantly running around like, hey, yeah, I just want to be happy, haha, I just want to play games, that's what children do. Unfortunately, we've just spoken about how we're now adults and we need to understand the difference between adults and children, the difference between social lives, blah, blah, blah. That is what children do, run around trying to be happy all the time, and like, they're allowed to be. But once you're an adult, you need to be able to work out when you should be happy, when you should be proud, and when you shouldn't really care how you feel, because what you're doing is important. When I wake up in the morning, how I feel that day, if I'm ill or I feel down or whatever, which I usually don't, hardly ever do, that's not going to change what I do with my day. I'm still going to wake up at 4 a.m, go downstairs, work, and do all the same stuff, and that's going to contribute to me feeling better the next day. People overlook this. It's so simple. Your doctor's told you this 100 times. Sleep, exercise, diet is so important. So many people are like, oh, I can't sleep, I'm not happy, I'm this, I'm that, I've got that problem, I need this tablet. I swear to God, if you were to just sort out your sleep, diet, and exercise, you'd be far better. But the problem is, nobody's going to do that, and that's why there is a pharmaceutical industry, because even the doctors know that you should be doing sleep, diet, and exercise, but they know no one's going to. They know that they have a far less likely chance of you being successful at the other end of this if they tell you to sleep better and exercise and diet, because no one's going to do it. No one has the willpower. And now I eat properly. I fast until lunch. I wake up at 4 a.m. I fast until lunchtime, sometimes till tea time, and then I eat a proper meal. I go to bed at 8 every night. I wake up at 4 a.m. I exercise. I go swimming, all that kind of stuff. And my quality of life, my mindset, and all that kind of stuff is so much better when I was just overloading my brain with dopamine, fucking scrolling through social media and doing all this bullshit. Also do boxing as well, and if anyone's seen my day in the life, you'll probably see a few shots in there of me doing boxing, but all of that contributes to the exercise, diet, and just the overall quality of life. And on the topic of diet, I spoke about dopamine, the happy chemical in your brain that makes you feel happy. You also have serotonin, another chemical in your brain that makes you feel happy. 98% of your serotonin comes from your gut. So what does that tell you? You need to be eating right. Like if you're putting shit in your gut, you are what you eat and all that, it's going to fuck up your serotonin, you're not going to be happy, obviously. You can build yourself into anybody you want. Before I learned web design, before all this, I was basically just a piece of clay to be molded. Like I could have become anybody. I literally could have been anyone. And I went out, I said before, your thing's not waiting for you. I found my thing, I worked out what I wanted to do, and I made myself that person by actually putting in the effort and using all of the other skills that I've taught you in this. You can be anybody you want if you actually try hard enough and do not quit. Now, this is something that I have struggled with before, but ultimately live my life by, and that is do not talk down to yourself. Don't be going fucking idiot to yourself in your head. Fucking idiot, I'm an idiot, I can't believe I did this. Because you will start to believe it. Like you can literally speak these things into existence. Like, and I'm not being all airy-fairy here, but like honestly, like you will start to believe these things. If you constantly tell yourself you're stupid, why would you not believe you're stupid? Because you trust yourself, right? You need to build up confidence in your own self. Before when I said you need to be able to say you're going to do something and do it, that's building trust in yourself. Eventually you start to not trust yourself to the point where you know that if you say you're going to do something, you're probably not going to do it. So your body subconsciously doesn't commit to it. But if you actually start to constantly complete these things and achieve them, you'll be signaling to yourself that you're the kind of person that achieves these things. It's always about money. People like to say, oh, it's not about money, rah, rah, rah. Maybe you're not materialistic. I know plenty of people that aren't materialistic. I'm not very materialistic myself. I'm not always chasing the money. This is about building something for me. But unfortunately, I can't build something without money. I can't grow this any further without money. I can't have staff without money. I can't have resources without money. It is always about money. My family can't even have the life that I want them to have and the life that they want without money. Having an ego isn't a bad thing. If you don't believe in yourself, if you're not confident in yourself, then who the fuck else is going to be? Like seriously, I have an ego. I know that I'm absolutely amazing at what I do. I know I have the skill set. I'm always talking highly of myself. I tend to never talk down to myself. But people don't think I'm a dickhead because I'm not arrogant with it. There's a big difference between arrogance and ego. There's a big difference between absolute competence and absolute confidence in yourself than there is between delusion. And the way that you build confidence over delusion is by what I said a minute ago, constantly cementing this stuff to yourself, keeping your promises to yourself, actually building your skill set and seeing that you are competent and constantly proving to yourself that you are competent to the point where you know it. Everybody has an incentive for everything. All you need to do is figure out what it is and try and leverage it. Like when you are speaking to someone about something, you're in a meeting, you're in a call, whatever, think about what your incentive is, what their incentive might be. A lot of the time people will tell you what their incentive is. We're trying to get this, we're trying to get that. If you can work out what people's incentive is, this ties into providing value. You work out what their incentive is, you provide it, you give them value, and in return they provide you your incentive. Here's another one that's definitely been a bit difficult for me at times, and honestly if it wasn't I probably wouldn't be human, and that is the number one thing that's going to be tied to how successful you're going to be is how tolerant you are of stress, how easily and how well you can tolerate stress. Because if you're like, this is going to be stressful, trust me, it's stressful, and I'm telling you now, the better I've got at handling stress, even though I have let it get on top of me at times, that is always when I perform the best. You need to be able to handle the stress. Like your business needs a leader that can handle all of this stuff, and if you can't handle the stress, how can everybody else look to you? Like everybody else is feeling stressed and worried, and they look and you're stressed and worried. I mean, come on, like you're supposed to be the leader, you're supposed to be setting an example. Let's talk about chess randomly, because actually chess is a very important game in life because you need to think about your next move. And honestly, this sounds cliche, but it's not. Just hear me out here. In chess, you need to think, if I move here, they have to move either here or here. So if they do that, then I have to move here and here. And you can think about the next steps. And that's why in chess, it's dangerous playing against someone who doesn't really know what they're doing, because you can't predict what they're going to do. They're not going to make the most likely move. And that's the same in life. Like you need to think about your next move. You need to be careful when you're playing against unpredictable people. I mean, that's really it, to be honest. Like chess is a super valuable lesson for life. And to be honest, if you can learn to play the game, all the better. I know how to play, and it's only benefited me. Put it this way, I remember I was teaching a mate of mine to play chess. I'd played for time, he had no experience, and I'm like sort of there playing, not paying any attention, and all of a sudden it's checkmate. And I'm like, what? Fuck off, there's no way that you just checkmated me, like what's going on? Everyone's like, he did, look, I look at the board, I'm like, I'm in checkmate, what the actual fuck? Alright, whatever. About 20 minutes later, someone comes up to me and they're like, yo, you know he cheated. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, he literally was just moving the pieces in whatever direction, he wasn't moving them in the way they're supposed to go, you weren't even paying attention. And I'm like, fucking hell. I was so concerned about like his next move when I shouldn't have even been thinking about his next move because he doesn't know how to play. He doesn't know what his next move is. I should have been paying attention to the board. So honestly, you do need to think about people's next moves, but don't take your eye off the actual board, like the game you're playing in your actual life. Like don't think too much about the future that you're not thinking about the present. There's a fine line between all of it. If you don't try, you can't succeed. And I have kind of said this in a few different ways throughout this, and this ties into loads of different things. If you don't try, you can't succeed. It's the same as what I said before about if you're not there to get lucky, then you can't get lucky. Everybody hates Mondays. I don't. I don't love Fridays either. I love every day because I work 7 days a week because this is my life. I don't see it as work and this is what I want to be doing with my personal time. But honestly, like, I don't see it as, oh, it's Monday, oh my God, because I worked Sunday and like I'm not hungover, I'm not looking forward to the weekend to party. Most people are literally spending their whole week looking forward to the weekend, and then they're hungover till Wednesday, still looking forward to the weekend, and then they leave early on Friday and they're back to the weekend and they're destroying their bodies, no sleep, diet, exercise. It's crazy. If you make your work your life, you're not going to be looking at the clock, you're not going to be looking forward to Friday or hating Monday and all that kind of stuff. But if you only make your work slightly your life and you're still going out on the weekend, you hate Sunday, you feel shit Monday, you finally get back to yourself by Wednesday. If you're drinking on the weekend, you're at like 50% brain capacity for like another 2 weeks or something like that. I mean, feel free to put the real statistic on the screen here, but it is something like that. Everybody says not to make what you love your job, but you actually need to make your job what you love. It's the same thing I said to you earlier about finding your thing. Like, you literally need to be able to find something and be like, I can do this well, I'm not going to hate doing it, and I can really make it into my thing. And I'm not going to dive too much into this either, but I just think that's a really insightful point. Everyone says that millionaires have 7 sources of income, and that's technically true, but this applies again to like people forgetting what got them there. They got there with one thing. People always use Elon Musk as a bad example, because people will be like, oh, Elon Musk has like 3 businesses and, you know, or 4 or 5 businesses, whatever, and he did this and he did that. He doesn't spend a penny on marketing, so I shouldn't. Elon Musk's an outlier. Like, those are literally bad examples. Everyone always uses Elon Musk as a bad example and ends up thinking they can do that as well. You're not Elon Musk. So like I said, millionaires have 7 sources of income, but like, they diversified their income sources once they became millionaires. And a lot of the time they forget what got them there and they say, yeah, 7 sources of income. But honestly, like I said, Elon Musk is an outlier, and you are going to get rich or successful or whatever your goals are with one thing that you become extremely good at. You shouldn't want to take a break. Do you know how many times my mum and dad and that are like, you should take a break? And my answer to them is, what would I do? Like, what do you expect me to do? Just sit there and just look at the wall until I decide that the break's over? Like, there is no reason for me to take a break unless I was sick of it. And I personally don't think you can get sick or burnt out or any of that stuff from something that you love. Like, you may get stressed in the moment, angry in the moment, whatever, but that's because you're passionate about it. Most people don't even know that any of these opportunities are available. When I was at school, if I had known that these opportunities were available, by the way, that's why I went in and spoke at the college, because I wanted people to be able to understand what opportunities are available, because if people are giving me these opportunities, I would have flown off in that direction straight away. It took me so long to go online and be like, oh my God, like, people are out there doing this. Like, I could do this. Like, I cannot believe that these opportunities are available. And yet school just wants to teach you to be a good factory worker, which, by the way, that's literally what it was made for. In the Industrial Revolution, they designed school to create good factory workers because they needed to fill the factory of good workers. And unfortunately, no one has redesigned any of the curriculum or anything since. Or maybe briefly, like, I suppose there are some changes to the curriculum, but the overall system hasn't changed. And by the way, when I say the overall system hasn't changed, like, I'm a firm believer that there is no problem with the system. Like, obviously I don't like the system. I don't agree with many of the official traditional systems that are in place. But at the same time, there are people that are successful out of that system. I'm successful out of this system. There are plenty of people that are successful out of other systems. Like, all systems are good depending on the kind of person you are. Like, honestly, like, if the system was set up perfectly for me, then all the people that were successful at school with the normal system, they'd be doing something different, and the system wouldn't have been set up perfectly for them. You can't win them all. The classroom really is that thing that's had no evolution. Well, except for maybe like going to the moon. But either way, the kitchen has evolved, the battery has evolved, the mobile phone, the internet, all of these things evolved. The classroom hasn't evolved. Surely that alone is enough evidence for you. Think about problems before tackling them. If you get a problem and you go, boom, here's a solution, I jumped right into it, I tried it and it's fucked up. If you actually plan things, we've been talking about plans a lot, you're far more likely to actually find a solution if you sit and think about the problem. So many people, again, I said people don't do strategy, so many people don't take time to sit and think. I spend so much time just sat there thinking, just planning things out. Me and Max had a problem recently. What was it? It was a coding problem. I can't remember exactly what it was. Hopefully we'll put this over the top. It was stressing me out. I could not figure it out. And once we had this coding problem, and like I said, it stumped me, I was getting so frustrated, I spent the whole day just kind of in silence, just thinking, and every now and then I'd be like, oh, by the way, I've worked this out, I wonder if this works like this, all day, and then eventually I get back to the computer and within 2 seconds I solve it, because I spent the whole day thinking about it, thinking about the problem, how this stuff works. I remember when I was learning to code, I was struggling with this CSS animation. I went to sleep on the couch, and I remember waking up and being like, wait, Dad, I think I know what my animation isn't working. And he was like, are you thinking about that while you're asleep? And I was like, yeah. Nobody thinks about anything, and trust me, I got up and fixed the animation. Everything is problem solving. Design is solving a problem with design. Marketing is solving a problem with marketing. With a website, you're solving somebody's problem. Everything is solving a problem. Even if you're designing furniture, you're solving someone's seating problem. Like, especially like anything. I always say everything is designed. Anything you take a look at has been designed by somebody. And that's actually why when people say design to me, I never know what they're talking about. Because I say design, I'm talking about web design and all that. Another client said to me design, he's talking about kitchens and all that kind of stuff. Another person's talking about design, they're talking about interior design. Like, there's so many different types of design. And all of this is problem solving. Every time I work with a client, I'm solving one of their problems. Every time I fix something in the company or work on something in the company, I'm solving a problem. Everything is problem solving, and your problem solving ability is going to be directly correlated to how successful you are. You need to be able to solve your own problem. If your life's a problem and you want a better life, you better figure out how to solve it. Because trust me, no one else is going to solve it for you. Me here on the camera talking to you right now, telling you all of this amazing valuable information is the closest you're ever going to get to someone solving it for you. Now this is so important. It's about the person, not the business idea. I could take any business that I believe in and blow it up because I know how to operate a business. I know how to build systems. I know how to market. Like, this is literally what we do, is we market for other companies. We build up their online presence. A lot of the time we're building up significant amounts of their business that did not already exist. I know how to build these systems, and I could really take on absolutely any business and blow it up because it's down to the person, not the idea. Somebody else, like everyone always says to me, my dad always says, are you not worried that you're giving away all the secrets online? And I always say, people aren't going to be able to do it as good as me, even if I show them exactly how to do it, because this is like my thing. Like, and I know the exact way that I want to do it. It's my idea, and even when you give people the exact blueprint, they're not going to be able to copy you. Like, for example, people that are going to be capable of copying you are probably already learning. They would have learned from someone else. Other people are never going to copy you. There's loads of information online. They're not going to copy you anyway. So like I said, it's about the person, not the business idea. The idea is kind of redundant if you are incapable of implementing it. Like, honestly, like, it really is about the person. And I am absolutely certain that I could take nearly any business and blow it up. And speaking of taking any business and blowing it up, I actually have a video coming soon, so make sure you subscribe for more, where I start a web design agency, a web design and social media marketing agency from scratch to prove it's not luck. So I guess we'll find out if I'm right. A good leader does not lead by fear, and sometimes not even respect. Like, a good leader leads by inspiring people. Honestly, someone told me once, you can't motivate anybody with money. Like, maybe you can for a short period of time, but like, let's say I was trying to motivate Max, I just keep giving him more money, more money, more money. If he doesn't care, all he's really caring about is the money and trying to figure out how he can get me to give him more money and all that. Whereas, like, if he actually cares about this, he cares about Island Web Design, he cares about the mission that I'm on and the mission that we are all on and becoming an actual part of it, that's how you motivate people. Motivate people by making them feel valued, making them understand that they're important. I always want people to care about Island Web Design as much as I do, and that is so difficult. You're never going to get that. But if you can find people that like care about it in the same way you do, then that is what you need. And obviously for the same reasons you do. Like, honestly, right now Island Web Design is me, Jade, Max, Yuri. All of these people give a fuck about Island Web Design. They care about the mission. Like, Yuri just nominated me for Creative Entrepreneur of the Year. I didn't think he was going to do that. He spoke so highly of me and I was so grateful of it, and honestly just didn't really expect it. Speed. And I don't mean rushing, but a business really is about speed, like being able to be efficient, being able to be like, right, bang, bang, get it done. Because if you can do something for someone and someone else can do the exact same thing, trust me, and this is again why you shouldn't be charging hourly, you don't want to be taking longer, you want to be taking quicker. Like, the better result for them is that you're able to do it quicker. And that's why you're actually punishing yourself if you're charging hourly, because like you're not going to want to finish the work as quick. I am absolutely hammering through these projects. People are always surprised how good the projects are and how quickly they're complete. And that's all down to this. And by the way, a business is money in the door. Like, if I have a logo and tax documents and an office and all of this mad stuff that costs loads of money, and officially on paper I have a business and woohoo, look at me, it's all vanity, I have less of a business than the person who just sold a logo to their grandma for their business, because they have money coming in. That's what a business is money in. Like, if you have all this stuff and you don't have money coming in, you don't really have a business, you just have a spending problem. The number 2 Facebook employee and the number 3 Facebook employee and even probably the number 5 Facebook employee are millionaires, billionaires, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And the point here is, if you don't think your skill set is well suited to a business and starting your own business, and maybe you're not a natural leader, if you have a friend that has an amazing business idea, your skill set could massively benefit them. There's no reason why you shouldn't build that as a career. Like, you're going to be way better off going to work for a startup that's about to be massive rather than Facebook or something, right? Like, honestly, same with Island Web Design. We're going to be massive in 10 years. And when I talk about people that care about the business, I also want people that understand where this company is going. So like I said, the number 2 employee at Facebook is a billionaire. Like, the number 5, number 6 employee at Microsoft is a multi-millionaire. Like, if you can get into these companies early and provide a valuable skill set, then you're going to be just as valuable and probably have just as good a life and be just as successful and influential as the person that started it. And even if that's not what you're chasing, all of those things I just listed, whatever you are chasing, like, you just need to kind of refactor these steps slightly to be suitable for your own situation, basically. It is fucking brilliant to be underestimated. When I first started Island Web Design, I lived with my parents and I was riding around on a rusty push bike that my neighbor gave me and the chain kept snapping and all that kind of stuff. I looked young as well, so people would always underestimate me. People never really understood like how well this company was doing, how well this company is going to do, the plans I have for it. And honestly, everyone used to be like, oh, how does it feel? People don't really get what you're actually doing. And I was like, brilliant. People underestimate me. Nobody knows how much of a threat I am, and they're not going to realize that until it's too late. There are no get-rich-quick schemes. None. They don't exist. I'm not saying people don't get rich quick, but there are no get rich quick schemes, and you should never be looking for a get rich quick scheme. Most people are like, oh, that would take 5 years, 10 years, whatever. You need to be committing the next 5, 10 years of your life to this. I've committed way more of my life to this, and I'm not saying yet, but I already know that I'm going to spend 20, 25 years, probably up until I die, doing this. Nothing happens overnight, and the main problem online and why influencers and online courses get a bad name is because everyone's looking for a get-rich-quick scheme. Everyone's like, what's the quickest way I can do it, rah, 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 basically desperate. Whereas I literally said when I started, I said this to my dad, I might not get any clients for months. I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to spend money. I'm willing to not make any money because I know what I'm going to build here. This is so interesting. You can take your skills. You know before when I said it's about the person, everyone knows who Steve Jobs is, right? When Steve Jobs died, he was a multi-billionaire, and he owned either none or basically next to no Apple stock at all. But he was still a multi-billionaire. Now, why is that? Because when they fired Steve Jobs from Apple, because by the way, if you don't know this, he got fired from his own company. He went off and did a load of other things, and he actually ended up discovering George Lucas before George Lucas made Star Wars, heavily investing in him, and I'm sure it had something to do with Pixar and Disney. And Steve Jobs had his finger in so many pies. He was an absolute visionary in every area. Not only did he reinvent the way that we live our lives with the iPhone, the iPod. I remember when Steve Jobs came out on stage and he said, we've done it. We've invented it. 1,000 songs in your pocket, and everyone's like, oh my god, like they could not believe it. He was an absolute visionary, and he died a billionaire with no stock in his own company, which was worth absolutely billions, and he would have died 3 times as much of a billionaire if he did have stock in the Apple company. Go watch the Steve Jobs movie. It's super interesting, and yet again, I said you need to be influenced by people. You need to have role models. Saying that about Steve Jobs, like forget all the Pixar stuff and all of that afterwards. Like initially Steve Jobs worked at Atari and he used to stink and only want to eat vegetables and be a hippie and all that, to the point where no one liked him and they wanted him to only work at night. And while he only worked at night, he hired his friend because he knew his friend had the skill set that would be beneficial to him. And they both came along and they invented one of the first ever Atari games, a super popular Atari game at Atari, long before the Pixar stuff, long before the Apple stuff, because it's about the person, not the idea. Someone online is always going to be willing to help you. Everybody always hears us talk about our custom content management systems. When we build websites, we use Sanity to build custom content management systems for our clients so they can make changes to the website themselves, no matter their tech skill level. And when I was first starting to make websites, I was like, shit, my clients are going to want to be able to change the websites. They're not going to be able to learn code. So how am I actually going to do this? I was looking around for tutorials. I couldn't find anything. And eventually I was like, well, I'm just going to have to ask someone. And I used to watch this guy on YouTube, a podcast called HTML All the Things. So I literally messaged him on Twitter, yo, how do I let people update their websites themselves? And he was like, oh, Strappy or Sanity. I went and looked at Sanity, followed one of those tutorials, and now we're here now. And that's literally because I was willing to ask somebody online and he was actually willing to help me. The reason I wake up at 4 a.m. is you do your best work in the morning. Even if you think you're a night owl and you're performing all this amazing work at night, I promise you, you do it twice as good in the morning. Your willpower is proven to deplete throughout the day. As you use your willpower, it depletes. You will do your best work in the morning. That is when everybody does their best work because their brain is rested. Do not fall for the bullshit of thinking you're a night owl because you don't want to be sat up in the middle of the night finishing your work when you could be sat up in the middle of the night finishing your work, but you've just got up rather than just about to go to bed. Now, I've said this multiple times to so many people and everybody's always like, oh my God, that's amazing. You need to be able to build goodwill in your audience. So every time that you provide value to your audience and you don't try and sell them something or charge them something, you're building up goodwill. And every time you try and pitch them something and try and get them to give you money, you're extracting that goodwill. So if you can build up as much goodwill in your audience as possible without extracting it, you're always going to do better. We provide so much free value in our videos. Sometimes we're not even pitching people things, we're just providing free tips, free value and all that kind of stuff. And we're building up goodwill in our audience to the point where people trust us, they're willing to watch our videos, and they're far more open to consuming it because they know I'm not always going to try to pitch them something. And if I do try to pitch them something, I've earned the goodwill. Don't wake up to an alarm. I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning, I've said that like 20 times, and I don't ever wake up to an alarm. I just wake up. If I wake up to an alarm, it startles me up. And I actually personally believe that even without all the other benefits of waking up at 4 a.m., just the discipline of knowing that I can get up every day at 4 a.m., Christmas Day, I can finish work by the time everybody's getting up, that's worth it for me. You can't be easily offended. Our number one thing we tell clients when we're taking feedback on our designs from them for their website is don't be scared to offend us. If you're going to be offended all the time, I mean, this kind of lines up with align yourself with objective reality. Fuck your opinions. Your opinions really don't matter when it comes to your business. Your business is way more important. And yeah, you need to align yourself with objective reality and not be easily offended. If I was getting butthurt every time someone didn't like my designs, like, it's not personal. Like, for example, if you call up a company, let's say you call up your mobile phone provider, because trust me, I do. And I'm like, yo, like, I'm pissed off, whatever, The owner of the company is losing no sleep over that. Now, I'm losing sleep over that because I care about my customers, but the point is, you need to be able to draw the difference between personal problems and problems with the company because, you know, it's not personal, it never is. Live below your means. If you make 100K a year and you spend 110K a year, and I make 30 grand a year, but I only spend 10 grand a year, I'm richer than you, I'm better off than you, I have more money than you, I can live for longer without a job than you. Like, honestly, it's so important. I'm not spending any money on watches or shoes or holidays, expensive things, all that kind of stuff. All of the money is going back into the company, is in the company bank account, is in investments, because that is what I'm doing with my money right now. Here is just an absolutely amazing piece of life advice. If you are successful in your life, let's say I made £1 million, I got £1 million, yeah? And I invest my £1 million into a mutual fund, 5%, most mutual funds pay you a guaranteed 5%. I am going to be paid 50 grand a year by that mutual fund for the rest of my life, and when I die, my kids are going to be paid that for the rest of their life, as long as they don't withdraw the money, and when they die, their kids are. Like, honestly, you need to understand the power of investing and the power of interest and the power of having your money work for you. Honestly, fucking lifesaver. Social Security is a legal Ponzi scheme. I said this at work once and someone just overheard me and got so butthurt and offended because people don't like to think of the idea of the system that supports their entire life, all of their plans, collapsing. But I'm telling you now, Social Security is a legal Ponzi scheme. I've even heard accountants say this, everything. Because the definition of a Ponzi scheme is robbing Peter to pay Paul. And if you're paying, I'm paying now into the Social Security pension scheme, and the people that are 65 are getting the money now. Then when I'm 65, young people are paying in and I'm getting their money, right? If that ever stops, these people that are 45, 50, that have been paying in their whole life, their money's gone. Like, social, you need to get a real pension. You need to take charge of your own financial future, because trust me, nobody gives a fuck about you, and Social Security really could go bankrupt. You can do anything in any industry. I have a mate who's a rapper, he's an amazing rapper, and people always used to say to him, right, you will never be a famous rapper, like, why bother? And he used to always say, I love music. I could work in anything in the music industry. I could be a producer, I could be a sound engineer, I could be an event promoter, I could be anything. So the point is, if you love something and you want to do something and it ends up not working out in the exact way you wanted, have backup plans. You can still work in that industry. Like, you can still do anything in that industry, be a part of it, and still make a living doing what you love. People need to realize that they can go out on their own. Like, for example, if you are good with wood, why don't you get on Facebook and start advertising to people that you can do some carpentry for them? If you can paint, why don't you start advertising that you can do paint for them? If you can cook, get a food van, go out to some sort of public gathering in your local area. For example, in Guernsey, we have Seafront Sunday, and I told some kids in the college class who loved cooking that they should rent a van, go down there and cook food for people. If they're good, obviously people are going to like the food, but also people are going to be like, 2 16-year-olds with a food van, like, sick, let's go down and support these kids, rah, rah, rah. Like, you can really do anything on your own. Like, being deadly serious, I did this on my own. Don't get a 30-year mortgage. I'm not about to start getting into the specifics of why you shouldn't get a 30-year or a 40-year mortgage they're even doing now. But seriously, don't get a 30-year mortgage and end up just getting trapped for 30 years paying this debt, otherwise they'll take your house away. Like, I'm deadly serious. I don't really have like a specific, don't get a mortgage, do this instead. But just think carefully about when you're getting into like a 30, 40-year commitment, and that doesn't just apply to a mortgage, like, it just applies to life. Same goes for credit cards. Like, credit cards have predatory interest rates. Most people don't understand the interest rates. Like, the number one rule, if you go online and try to learn how to make money, how to invest, how to save money, how to start a business, the first rule always, and shout out Dave Ramsey, is get out of debt. Like, seriously, you need to get out of debt. You need to have all your money to work for yourself. Get out of fucking debt. The whole debt, the whole economy is a debt system. You take a mortgage, that's a debt. You borrow money for this, you borrow money for that. It's all a credit system. Even our notes are a loan. They are like a loan. They represent the value of £1. Like, these are just like receipts for the money. It's mental. Let me tell you how money's made. Do you know what a bond is? A bond is when you lend money to the government. So you can buy a bond. Let's say you buy a bond for 50 quid. You've just lent 50 quid to the government and they're going to pay you 5% until the bond expires, and then you're going to get your money back. So that's basically how money is made. So we have the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve gives loans to the US government in return for bonds, and the loans that they give to the US government are the money that they just printed, right? And then all of this stuff gets lent out as mortgages, and the interest that comes back is money that basically didn't exist in the economy before. And that is a very brief overview, and I am not a money expert. I'm telling you to go and look at this stuff. But having an understanding of how money works is really important if you want to attract it. Here's an example of how this really is a debt economy. Your dad owns a house that costs £1 million, and he dies and you inherit the house, right? The government is now going to say, you owe us 40% of that in taxes, give us 400k. And you're going to say, I don't have 400k, rah, rah. And they're going to say, well, here's what we can do. We can give you a mortgage for 400k. And now all of a sudden you've inherited a house and ended up in a load of debt. Now, Guernsey is a tax haven. Guernsey is the only place that doesn't have inheritance tax. But in any other place, that happens. And that's just an example of how somebody can literally have no debt, inherit a house, and now they're in debt. They're part of the system. It is literally a debt economy, and just don't get trapped by it. Oh, and there is good debt. There is absolutely good debt. And if you're going to borrow money to start a company, if you're going to borrow 50 grand and you can project with your plan how it's going to make 100 grand, then obviously there's good debt. But just be careful, because they really want to keep you in the debt cycle. Like, think about it. You go to school, then you go to uni. It's debt, yeah? Then, to pay off that student debt, you go to work, and you can't leave your job because you need to pay off the student debt. And then you get a house, which is more debt, that you now can't leave your job again because you need to pay off this house until you die. Some people are paying off their car, they get a remortgage and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to keep you in the debt cycle. Honestly, the second that I was able to break free from that, and I wasn't ever in debt, but as soon as I was able to break free from that thought process and just thinking how everyone else thinks, because that's how the system is, I was able to break free. It's all about supply and demand. Like, honestly, supply and demand is how the market moves. If there is demand, but no supply, the price will go up. If there is supply but no demand, the price will go down. This is literally how stocks move. This is how crypto moves. This is how everything moves. If people are buying Bitcoin, Bitcoin's going to go up because there's demand for it and the supply is fixed. If people are selling Bitcoin, there's no demand, there's more supply, the price goes down. You need to constantly be thinking about supply and demand. I have a supply for marketing, websites, all this kind of stuff, and there's demand for it. If there wasn't, my supply would be irrelevant. Speaking of how money's created, let me tell you something about the Bretton Woods Agreement. After World War II, before that Britain was the world superpower. After World War II, Britain was destroyed, bankrupt trying to build the country back, and America was basically untouched apart from Pearl Harbor. And America decided that they were going to bail everyone out, become the world superpower, and help Britain rebuild. So they established the Bretton Woods Agreement. The Bretton Woods Agreement means that all of the countries in the world, all of their money is tied to the dollar, and the dollar is tied to gold. If you want to exchange your money for gold, you need to go through the dollar first, rah, rah, rah. That was the Bretton Woods Agreement. Then America started printing way more money than they actually had gold. And all of these countries were like, you don't have the gold, we want our money back. So Richard Nixon shows up on TV in 71, I believe, and says, we are now taking America off the gold standard. The money is no longer backed by gold. And that is when we entered a debt economy where our money isn't actually backed by anything, and we now have a fiat currency. Money is not technically earned, it's taken. Someone else has money, you have to convince them to give it to you for something. That's literally how it works. And I may be wrong here, so like, correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously there's going to be fact checkers in the comments, but bank is like Latin for bench or whatever. People used to just meet up on benches and trade. And like the way this started initially was, I have an apple and I want an orange, and me and you swap apples for oranges. But if I have an apple, you have an orange, and I want to swap my apple for a banana, we're now screwed. So the banks sort of popped up and started being like, all right, this money represents value rather than a specific item. And that was basically how that started to work. And the next one is about being able to move with the times. Now let me give you an amazing story that I found out ages ago that really changed my view on all of this. Your salary, you get paid your salary every year. Salary means salt. So it really did used to mean salt, because salt used to be extremely, extremely valuable, right? So you used to earn your salt. And now, salt is given away for free in every restaurant. Now why does this happen? Because of the invention of refrigeration, right? Salt used to be used to preserve food and keep it fresh and all that kind of stuff, and it was extremely valuable. And then they invented refrigeration, and overnight salt's given away for free, and people still call their salary salt to this day. And the point here is, salt didn't move with the times. Like, things can change very quickly, and you need to be adaptable, and that's why it's about the person and not the idea. Wealthy is having enough money to never work again. And saying that, somebody said to me once, when can I consider myself rich? And I said, when you have enough money to never work again. And the last one, I'm always telling people this, stop with the anti-rich mindset. Oh my God, the rich people aren't paying taxes. Oh my God, so-and-so got a new car. Oh my God, this, oh my God, that. I used to say to people, when I'm rich, you better not look at me like that, because I intend to be rich and I don't intend to be looked at like that. And if you have this anti-rich mindset, then you're always going to be poor. Like, if you hate the rich, then why would you even want to be one? You're going to subconsciously tell yourself, I don't want to be that kind of person, new car and all this. But in reality, the only reason you're saying it in the first place is because you're jealous. So there you have it. 9 years of things that I wish I knew earlier. You have 9 years of my opportunity cost, so you don't suffer the same opportunity cost that I do. And honestly, you probably have even more than I initially intended to put in this video, because I ended up going off on so many tangents, reminding myself about things, and honestly just pretty much telling you guys everything I know. So if you want to carry on learning all of this free value from the owner of a real web design agency, somebody who actually went from, like I said, 17 years old, running events, just trying loads of different ideas, to running a successful web design agency, having multiple people work for me, and being on a trajectory to be an absolutely massive company, then make sure you subscribe for more. You can go to our website, click on our free newsletter. We're providing a load of free value there. And to be honest, anywhere you find us online, we're going to be providing value. So just go take a look.